On August 1st, 2025, comedian Matt Rife went viral for announcing the purchase of one of the most dangerous collections of paranormal artifacts in the world.
I have just bought the Ed and Lorraine Warrens Home and Occult Museum with my very good friend Elton Castay. We are the legal guardians and caretakers of all 750 haunted artifacts and items in the Warren Museum.
The museum that houses the infamous Annabelle doll.
Including the Annabelle doll.
And while he spoke with passion and a smile, thousands of viewers sent him warnings. Oh, you in danger. Are you insured? Don't touch nothing. Prayers. May the odds be ever in your favor. And some bidding their farewells.
This is the real Annabelle. The one locked in a glass case because even Lorraine Warren was scared of it. The one that inspired an entire horror franchise. The one tied to unexplained deaths, accidents, and full-on demonic encounters.
Of course, this sounds ridiculous, but the amount of people sharing their unusual stories is impossible to ignore.
Annabelle is the reason that I believe in evil.
With recent incidents tied to Annabelle's presence, where disaster seems to strike certain places she visits.
Found dead in his hotel room while he was on tour with the Annabelle doll.
And personal experiences of people who met the doll face to face. My life turned into a nightmare after meeting the real Annabelle doll. How much danger is Matt Rife really in? You see, Matt didn't just buy the Warrens' house and museum as a quiet admirer. He planned to turn it into entertainment.
And what this means for you guys is you are going to soon be able to book a night or a weekend and stay at the Warrens' house and investigate the house and the history of the house, as well as the museum and all the artifacts inside of it.
And while the artifacts inside the museum still belong to the Warren family, Matt and Elton became the legal caretakers of the artifacts for at least the next 5 years. Even Matt seemed aware of the potential danger.
This is the most random hobby ever, but it's so f***ing cool, man. I should probably collect stamps or something. Might be a little safer.
Now, for the first time in 6 years, Matt and Elton plan to reopen the Warrens' house and occult museum after it was shut down in 2019 because it's in a residential zone and was not approved for tourism. But the idea of a comedian making a profit off potentially haunted items and turning the Warrens' home into an Airbnb shocked the internet. While some defended him, just because he's a comedian doesn't mean he will make everything into a joke. He said he loves this stuff and will do everything respectful with it, which I can get behind. Plus, it's so cool to open this for overnight stays for big fans of the paranormal. Many people couldn't help but worry about the potential dangers associated with the Annabelle doll. The real Annabelle isn't porcelain like in the movies. It's a large Raggedy Ann doll. And according to the previous owners, the Warrens, it was first given to a nursing student in the 1970s who allegedly noticed it moving on its own, leaving strange notes, and even attacking a friend. The Warrens also alleged Annabelle wasn't possessed with the ghost of a little girl, but a demonic entity pretending to be one. They locked the doll in a glass case with a sign reading, "Positively do not open."
This is the worst thing in here. It's that doll.
And the Warrens were a whole other story. Ed and Lorraine Warren were a husband and wife team who spent decades investigating alleged hauntings and collecting objects they believed were paranormal.
Everything and anything in here we have investigated.
In their Monroe, Connecticut home, the one Matt bought, they converted part of the basement into the occult museum, filled with items they claimed were tied to real cases, some allegedly involving violent deaths, demonic activity, or streaks of bad luck. Among them were voodoo dolls, satanic idols, funeral masks, and the infamous Annabelle. The Warrens insisted these objects were dangerous and warned against touching or moving them, especially Annabelle.
Don't ever touch anything, and if you do, let me know.
While the Warrens' work has long been controversial, with critics calling them sensationalists, even scammers, which we'll get more into later, some people believe there may be truth in some of these haunting incidents, which could mean trouble for Matt Rife. In early May 2005, the New England Society for Psychic Research, NESPR, launched the Devils on the Run tour, showcasing haunted artifacts from the Warrens Occult Museum, including Annabelle. Yes, a tour meaning the artifacts the Warrens warned not to touch or move would be traveling across several states. And as it turned out, several cities experienced some unusual events. After Annabelle passed through New Orleans, Louisiana for their May 13th and 14th show, something shocking happened. Just one day later, on May 15th, the infamous Nottoway plantation went up in flames, destroying much of the structure. This 165-year-old antebellum mansion was the largest remaining plantation home in the South, and it carried a long, complicated history, built in 1859 by enslaved labor and held about 155 enslaved individuals. It's also frequently mentioned as Louisiana's most haunted places by both locals and visitors. Investigators stated the cause of the fire was due to faulty electrical wiring, but the timing of Annabelle passing through the city days earlier made people think twice.
Some people call it a coincidence, but look, in a city built on spirits, nothing burns without reason.
Especially considering the plantation's alleged shady behavior in modern day.
But recently, people noticed that it's been completely whitewashed. If you go on the website, there's nothing there that talks about the dark history of the place, and it's currently being used as a wedding venue. That is until Annabelle was there the other day and the whole thing burned down.
Even former employees spilled secrets.
I used to be a tour guide at Nottoway Plantation. Nottoway was not talking about history properly. The type of history that they were teaching there was a bunch of just headline stuff, framing John Randolph as a slave owner who wasn't that bad. And I absolutely refused to talk about that. And they really just wanted to be able to continue charging people $50,000 plus for weddings there.
Many people also pointed out the chilling imagery in the fire, writing, "Do you see the figures in the windows?" implying that Annabelle may have freed the enslaved spirits. Even though there was a discussion about the dangers of downplaying the real human suffering that happened at the plantation by using a supernatural scapegoat, one creator suggested,
if Annabelle did do it, then maybe she's not the villain. Maybe she's the anti-colonial queen that we didn't know we needed. And maybe, instead of demonizing her, we should be thanking her.
One day later, at midnight of May 16th, another unexpected incident occurred. 10 inmates escaped a New Orleans jail through a toilet wall. They ripped the toilet from the wall and broke the metal piping around it.
There are clean cuts here, and the plumbing had been removed.
They then made a run for it while the housing technician had stepped away for food. Above the escape route was a taunting message that said, "Too easy, lol," and "We innocent," which went viral online. The timing of the tour and fire the day before made people worry.
If y'all don't take Annabelle back where she was at!
Then, 3 more days later, on the morning of May 19th, another incident happened in New Orleans. Marie Laveau's former residence caught on fire, causing damage to half the home. Marie was known as one of the most famous voodoo practitioners in New Orleans in the 1800s. After her death, people used to visit her tomb to leave offerings and make wishes. It's now banned to do so because visitors caused damage to the site over time. While the current owner claimed the fire happened due to an accident,
what happened?
The batteries to my pedicab exploded.
Are you kidding me?
So all we could do was get out.
many felt the timing with the Devils on the Run tour and the recent incidents might not be so coincidental. That's not all. At the next stop for the Devils on the Run tour on their May 17th and 18th show in San Antonio, Texas, people described another event. In this specific image with Annabelle, people claimed to see a face in the mirror behind the doll. To prove it wasn't AI, someone filmed the image from the physical camera.
This is a picture before, and here is this picture. And look, they're going to zoom it in for you on the camera itself. Now, what do you think of this? Do you actually think they caught the Annabelle spirit?
Some had suspicions it was a reflection of one of the people standing close to the doll. Others disagreed, arguing it didn't look human. This could be a fluke, such as distortion caused by the mirror, angle, and lighting. But then people pointed out a similar situation in another photo, this time involving the new caretakers of Annabelle, Matt and Elton.
See this picture with Annabelle, the actual doll?
Did anyone else catch that in the photo of Matt, Rife, and Annabelle?
Something doesn't sit right with me.
there's a demon in it. If you look over his shoulder and next to the Annabelle doll, you see the two eyes in the shape of a face and a little body down this way?
However, again, not everyone was on board with this. Nothing. I see nothing. What are we looking at? It's literally his shadow. However, one of the most devastating incidents happened during the Gettysburg, Pennsylvania 3-day show, taking place from July 11th to 13th, 2025. On the first day, in the middle of their day show around 2 to 3 p.m. local time, Pennsylvania experienced a 911 outage.
Breaking news impacting 911 calls across the state of Pennsylvania. There is an intermittent statewide 911 system outage,
which made people wonder if this was really a coincidence.
I'm sure it's just a coincidence that the doll from hell just happened to enter y'all's state, and then suddenly y'all can't call the cops anymore. Yeah, I'm sure that's all just weird coincidence.
Then, things took a dark turn on the last show on July 13th. Dan Rivera, one of the hosts, passed away suddenly in his hotel. Emergency responders performed CPR, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. Dan Rivera was known as the senior lead for the NESPR and had spent years educating the public about the alleged dangers of the Warrens' haunted artifacts. But it was only when taking part in a traveling exhibit that he met his tragic end. There's actually this video of Dan putting on protective gloves that were supposedly blessed by a priest, then removing Annabelle from her original wooden box to a smaller one. Yes, the box that says, positively, do not open, was opened. Though police ruled Dan's cause of death as natural, and some people explained it could be an underlying health issue from possibly working too much, paranormal believers thought this might have to do with Mrs. Warren's warning to not move or touch anything in the museum. Some even thought the dark history associated with the location of Gettysburg's show, the National Soldiers' Orphans Homestead, may have contributed to the string of unusual events. The building in Gettysburg that they held the Annabelle viewings in was extremely inappropriate and disrespectful. It was an old orphanage used after the Civil War, ran by a woman who was known for severely mistreating the children there. I've been there in person on a tour as a teenager, and the overwhelming sense of dread and evil I felt upon entering the basement caused me to have to excuse myself from the tour. If they truly believed in the paranormal, why would they put a literal demon in the same place where the spirits of innocent children are likely trapped, with others even sharing unusual activity during her presence? I live in Pittsburgh, and the opening day, I watched the live stream before Annabelle got there on the Facebook page of the organization hosting the doll at the orphanage, and they had placed a bell on the stand where she would sit, and it was ringing non-stop. But what if we told you regular citizens who interacted with Annabelle have also creepy experiences after interacting with the doll? Those who attended the Devils on the Run tour in Gettysburg claimed it definitely made its presence known during the investigation, and have had things throughout all 3 days, becoming over-emotional, sick, fatigued, overall uneasy feeling, and have had 4 people say they were touched, so it's definitely made itself known. I was there with my family. We all felt sick, weak legs, tunnel vision, and fatigue. Felt better after about a half hour. It was like a wave of uneasiness. Very interesting. Backtrack. When the last group entered the area where Annabelle was, I went over to shut the door, turned around to start setting the orphanage back up for tours afterward, and smelled lilacs in an area about 8 feet from the door I shut. Asked one of my teammates to come over and see if they smelled anything. They didn't. Another attendee said she noticed Annabelle move. I saw someone else's post who went, and I compared their pictures to mine, and her hands had moved. I can't find the woman who took the other picture right now, but the one on the right I took, and the one on the left she took later. And while details of the terrifying experience were not provided, an old connection to the doll alleged, I can tell you with 100% certainty it is true. My husband worked with the nurse who owned the doll. She was not someone who would make anything up, and she is still terrified. But there was one alleged experience that was worse than the rest. The case of Marica Martinez, who claimed she mocked Annabelle in person, and then her life became a nightmare. Back on October 29th, 2016, Marica went to an evening with Annabelle in Monroe, Connecticut. The evening was hosted by Tony Spera, son-in-law of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Guests dined, viewed artifacts like the shadow doll and conjuring mirror, and ended the night face-to-face with the real Annabelle doll. Before unveiling her, Tony issued a warning: don't mock Annabelle. He claimed a man once laughed at her, then left the event and got into a serious accident on his motorcycle and was found dead. Marica said she tried to listen to the warning, but as she stood in line for her photo, the thought slipped. I mocked her. In my mind, I thought about how hideous she looked inside her box. What followed, she insists, wasn't a coincidence. First came physical injuries and a sudden cockroach infestation in her new apartment. She said the roaches were allegedly coming from her next-door neighbor, an elderly woman who always wore the same long blue dress and loved to stare for uncomfortable amounts of time. The elderly lady was later evicted, but the bugs multiplied until her home became unlivable. Then came the unexplained illness. Marica recalled waking up at 3 a.m. with the sharpest of pains in her stomach, rushed to the ER only for doctors to find nothing wrong. Soon after, she developed a chronic cough that 9 doctors' visits and 5 specialists later, no one could diagnose. Things only got stranger from here. Marica heard mysterious crinkling noises at night. Her dog became violently ill. And one humiliating night, she woke up to find her entire face covered in his crap. Her family and friends laughed it off, but for Marica, it was her breaking point. Even after moving, she claimed she was still plagued by more roaches. She had objects constantly fall from shelves, always Annabelle-related collectibles, and even a terrifying attempted break-in that left her hiding in the bathroom with her sister and dog until police arrived. Finally, Marica said she purged her life of anything tied to the Annabelle dinner. Her outfit, purse, phone, souvenirs, even the photo with Annabelle. Only then did things improve. Marica ended her PSA with a message and a photo. I deleted the photos off my social media page from an evening with Annabelle. As I still love horror, I'm reluctant to post anything horror-related on my platforms due to a subconscious or even a conscious fear of the situation repeating itself. I had to dig through my trash and archives to find the photos of me and Annabelle. Tread lightly. If you stare at the photo, whatever you do, don't mock her. Attached was a photo of Marica and Annabelle. But when you hear the names Ed and Lorraine Warren, you often also hear that they're frauds and scammers. So what's the actual truth? Some people believe the truth is somewhere in the middle. On one hand, some believe at least Lorraine Warren had supernatural gifts. Lorraine definitely had the gift. My mom lived in Connecticut, unknowingly bartending at a restaurant Lorraine was a regular at. One day at work, Lorraine pulled my mother aside and told her David, my deceased brother, watched over her. Believe what you may, but I'd like to think Lorraine was being genuine. But on the flip side, many also had questionable experiences with people the Warrens worked with. Their son-in-law, Judy's husband, Tony Spera, not a fan. I believe he saw nothing but dollar signs from the start. When Lorraine became extremely elderly yet still doing her shows, he would speak over her every chance he could. She had that frail old lady voice. She would try telling her stories on things she's seen, felt, etc. And he would speak as if he was there. It was disgusting to say the least. An ex-employee also called out several big names. I worked closely with NESPR for 2.5 years. I was let go due to jealousy and my questions about their practices. From my experience, Tony Spera is dishonest and doesn't believe in the paranormal. It's just a way for him to make money. NESPR never had a priest bless anything in the museum, and it's all a gimmick to profit from Ed and Lorraine's legacy. Tony Spera is a snake oil salesman, and Dan Rivera is a thief. Chris Gillerin is just in it for the money. And don't even get me started on Wade Kirby. NESPR is a traveling circus, and I feel bad for the blind followers wasting their money. Even the Warrens themselves had their own issues. These are 3 of the wildest debunked cases to show why many people no longer believe in the Warrens or those supporting them. 1. The Amityville horror case. In 1975, the Lutz family moved into a home in Amityville, Long Island, the same house where killer Ronald Defoe Jr. murdered 6 members of his family the year before. But after nearly a month, the Lutz family fled, claiming the house was crawling with demonic forces. The story went public, and a year later, in 1976, the Warrens were brought in to investigate. The Warrens held a seance with a TV crew, claimed the house was infested with demons, and used the case for years as proof of their work. But the story was debunked. William Weber, the killer's defense attorney, later admitted, "We created this story over many bottles of wine." He said he and the Lutz family made up the story to help sell a book and maybe get the killer a new trial. 2. The Haunting in Connecticut case. The Warrens hired horror author Ray Garton to write a book about a supposedly haunted funeral home in Southington, Connecticut. This later inspired the film The Haunting in Connecticut. But Ray noticed the family's stories didn't match up. When he asked Ed Warren what to do, Ed allegedly said, "Just use what you can and make up the rest. Just make it up and make it scary." Ray has repeated this in interviews and essays, saying the Warrens didn't care about accuracy and just wanted something marketable. 3. The Enfield poltergeist case. The Enfield case in London, 1977 to 1979, is what The Conjuring 2 was based on. And in the movie, the Warrens are the stars of the investigation, but in reality, they weren't central to the case. According to the lead researcher, Guy Lyon Playfair, the Warrens turned up once, and Ed told him that he could make a lot of money for me out of it. Guy rejected the Warrens, and was annoyed that Hollywood later rewrote the story to make the Warrens look like heroes. But just because the Warrens gave a bad name to the paranormal community, that shouldn't discredit all the paranormal experiences, right? Psychic medium and paranormal investigator Aria Michaels claimed to have met Annabelle twice at the Warrens Occult Museum, showing a receipt for at least one of those visits. Aria explained she did not take photos with Annabelle because she did not want to associate with her intense energy.
2 times that I was in the Warren Occult Museum, and I was, very close to that box that they had up on the wall that was holding Annabelle. I could not look directly at her. I'm speechless when I try to describe my interactions with her because they're not of this world. So I was unable to look directly at her.
She claimed the artifacts from the Occult Museum were nothing compared to Annabelle.
So most of the pieces in the museum, I felt absolutely nothing coming from them, and I felt like a lot of it was really sort of propaganda. But not Annabelle. Annabelle is the reason that I believe in evil.
Aria tried to explain the type of energy she felt.
I, at one point in time, had my back turned to her, but was very close to the box. It was only maybe about 3 feet away from me, and I could feel this intense, hot pressure, like boring into the back of my head. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced. It had this feeling of the primordial evil. If you've ever looked up at the night sky and you're like, wow, I feel so small, multiply that by like 1,000,000, and that's how I felt standing next to Annabelle. There was something very ancient about the amount of power that she possesses.
So, how much danger are Matt and Elton in after becoming the caretakers of Annabelle and hundreds of other supposedly haunted artifacts? Well, if you believe the shadowy figure in their Annabelle photo is demonic, and if you consider the major backlash Matt received on a recent campaign with Elf Cosmetics as the start of his potential downfall, then it's possible that the upcoming chain of events could be intense. But for skeptics, all these incidents with the tour and with Matt Rife might just be a string of bad luck. For believers, it's only the beginning. While you're here, check out our video on the viral T app made for women to share red flags about men when dating, but has now taken a dark turn. And consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. Your support means a lot to us and helps us continue to create videos like these.